Welcome to Powering Through Life on the Divas That Care Network. I'm Teresa Sims, and I'm your host, and I am a life coach, an NLP practitioner, and a multiple award-winning author and three-time number one best-selling co-author. Each week on Powering Through Life, my guests and I discuss, a special topic that is close to their hearts. Together, we will explore the challenges they have faced in life and learn what strategies and tools they have used to help power through their lives. Today, my special guest is Cassandra Bache. And Cassandra overcame infertility at age 45. She was given a 6 or 7% chance of conceiving, and she is now, luckily, the proud mother of a beautiful daughter named Sandy. Ever since, she has been researching and developing a program that knocks out women's fears to get them and keep them knocked up. That's awesome, Cassandra. Welcome to Powering Through Life.
Oh, thank you so much, Teresa. It's so nice to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad we got to do this. We haven't actually met each other in person, but we've been on several calls together. We've learned about each other, and I'm so fascinated by the topic that you have and the business that you have. So can you tell our listeners, what are some of the fears people have around getting pregnant? Because this is way out of my realm, so I need to experience this.
Right. Oh, for sure. Well, and to be honest, people don't really talk about it. This is a different way of thinking about fertility. I mean, you don't go to the fertility clinic and they say, okay, so what are you afraid of? But it's definitely can get in people's way. And some of the fears that my clients have had, one was just so hard. She had multiple miscarriages, and her fear was that she'd have an unhealthy baby, and she didn't feel she could handle that. That's a pretty significant fear. I mean, why would your body want to, A, get pregnant, and B, stay pregnant if you think, oh, my God, what if I'm having an unhealthy baby and I can't handle that? Yeah. So some of them can be massive. Some of the other ones are, oh, money comes in. How am I going to be able to afford to have a baby? Am I going to be able to afford to send them to college, to, send them to summer camp, to just on and on. There are just so many expenses, and it's a little bit of a black box, right? So you start trying to conceive now, but in 18 years when you're sending them to university, like who knows what the cost will be then? You can kind of speculate, but it's just sort of hard to get your head wrapped around. So financial can be huge. Having the emotional and even physical support to raise a child. You know the expression, it takes a village. Well, some people in these days in the societies we live in don't feel like they have that village, if you will. So where is it magically going to come from to have a baby? I had one client, oh my goodness, her big fear, she literally is this all-consuming fear, was that her second baby, she already had a baby, her second baby was going to not sleep more than 2 hours in a row for 2 years. So that's like literally waking up every 2 hours all night for 2 whole years. And she just felt like she couldn't function. And now she was going to be trying to do it with another child. So her fears flattened her. And we cleared that fear, and she was pregnant immediately.
Wow, that's incredible.
I know, isn't that crazy?
How do you go about clearing a fear like that, or any of those fears that you've mentioned? Because those are some pretty significant fears.
I know. So, I have an approach that we really systematically go after it, and like the fears often are hidden, and I call them the blind spot. So even the woman who was afraid of having an unhealthy baby, you should have seen the look on her husband's face when that came up, and she sort of said, well, she kind of knew it was there, and he was absolutely shocked because all their entire relationship, they had never talked about that as a possibility and as a concern of hers. So really, some of them don't even know that they have these. So what we do is we create a really clear vision and let's see, how can I word this? We create a really clear, almost set of affirmations. So like a vision of what they want to happen. And this can be taking into account, some of it is meaningful to them, some of it's meaningful to their body, because it's really kind of a mind, body, soul approach. Mm-hmm. So, for example, one of the things that we address is like my hormones are functioning, optimally, and my uterus is perfectly set up, blah, blah, blah. You get the point. Just mm-hmm. So some of it is really about function, and it's telling the body what it should do. And that's really helpful for people who are who have maybe some circumstances that aren't so favorable to having a baby, and like fibroids or PCOS or things like that. And then the rest of it is like you take their fears, the ones that we're aware of, and you turn them into a positive. So you'd be like, okay, I'm having a really healthy baby and holding this healthy baby in my arms. So it's not just a healthy pregnancy, it's all the way to baby. And then what we do is we identify through, as I say, this really structured approach, we identify the fears and we just start clearing them. And it's really powerful. And the thing is that when I'm calling them fears, they're beliefs. And we come in with a whole set of beliefs from our ancestors, and we have all kinds of beliefs, ones that we don't know why we have them, and ones that we do know why. And it actually shifts the beliefs, which unfortunately we pass our beliefs on to our children, which is why we've inherited them from our ancestors. And this way we get rid of them before they pass on to our children. So it's really powerful. I find that it changes the person's life. They get to have a baby, and then they don't pass their beliefs their negative beliefs all onto their baby.
That's amazing, because I no, that's fine. I do agree that, we hear stories from our mothers, grandmothers, sisters, whatever, and even though they're not our stories, we kind of, they get heaped onto our shoulders, and that's when they become fears, they become limiting beliefs, they become whatever, and they're really not ours. And
right.
they do affect us, though, because I know in something I learned when I was younger and believed in was sometimes the harder you try to get pregnant, the more your body is focused on all of this stuff. It doesn't work. And the minute you shut all that noise off, you become pregnant. So is that similar?
And even just one thing you just said, when you're trying to become pregnant, we use the term trying to conceive all the time.
Yes.
Your subconscious doesn't, the word try is basically, maybe you just want to have a lot of sex.
Yes.
Maybe you don't necessarily have to ever succeed when you're trying, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. So we actually, that's one of the things we work on. We do, much as I talked about the fears, and I feel like that's such a major component of it, we also create this really clear vision, and we address language. We work on stress management. I describe the segment of that as making space, and it means different things to different people based on where they really need to focus. And a new tool I'm adding to my toolkit is medical intuition. So I'll be doing readings on people to identify the energetic disruption in their body and try and get them more whole, and making sure they're balanced between body, mind, and soul. And so, and this is a body, mind, soul approach, as I say. So it works with people who are trying to conceive naturally, and it works with people who are trying to conceive utilizing the fertility, the clinics. And with the fertility clinics, it can also speed it up, right? I mean, I've got friends who've gone through 7, 12 rounds of IVF and not had success. So it can actually save them money when they get into that world.
Yeah, because I would imagine the IVF is not a cheap endeavor. I mean, there's got to be a fair price tag attached to it, and
it's true.
That's that financial burden that you were mentioning as one of the fears as well, right? So it's, how many times do I have to go through this? Oh, and then you probably weigh out, well, it didn't work this time. Can I really afford to do it again? How many more times? And it just becomes a cyclical thing, I would imagine. And
it does.
It's time you need to get off the merry-go-round kind of thing and just take a different approach to it, which is what you're offering, and that is so amazing.
Agreed. Well, and in Ontario now, up until you're 43, you can, not everyone does, but you can qualify for one free round of IVF. When you have one free round, you want to make it count.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's like, okay, put all, more eggs into this basket. And this is actually one of the things that I find in my work is that people think they're so committed to having a baby. And then when they work with me, they usually, one of the pieces of feedback I get is that, wow, I really thought I was sort of all in and I was clear, and they're like, I really wasn't, and now I have clarity, and now I'm fully committed to doing whatever it takes, and it's quite amazing what they do. And like I had one client who she was really spinning, so every time she came in she was going 5,000 miles an hour, and then by the time she left she was speaking normally. And I know it was crazy. And she said that I just completely lost my train of thought. She was trying to plan ahead. Mm-hmm. So she would ask me questions like, should I do this? Or maybe I need to make sure that this for the next round and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hold on. Like, take a breath. You need to be all in to this one. This round, this try, not anticipating the next one. And actually on Facebook groups that I'm members of where people are trying to conceive, because I'm a single mother by choice, and so I'm on a number of the single mother by choice Facebook groups, people are always sort of panicked during the 2-week wait, am I pregnant, am I not pregnant? And I always give them the advice, you're pregnant until you're not. Like, you just had a procedure done that should lead to pregnancy. Like, there's a good chance. Not always. It's the mind part, right? So you just think you're pregnant until you're not. And then I give them this little fun exercise of, envisioning the embryo floating into the uterus, and now it's got to pick a home, and so it's going to pick somewhere in the uterine lining and set up home, and just play with it, but really focus on this attempt, not being no concern about the next attempt, because if you're focused on this one and it works, there isn't one, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. If you've just had the treatment and you're already thinking that it hasn't worked and you're focusing on the next one, you're already saying that the one you just had didn't work.
Possibly, exactly. And that's the thing, it's a mind game.
Yeah.
You really have to be focused. You have to be present and focused on today. What is happening today? Belief
is key.
It's massive. Yeah. And the other thing is, Teresa, I find, when we're 22, well, even when we're 15, 16, but hopefully not too many people are having babies at that age in North America. Mm-hmm. But when we're 22, 25, you know what? Your body is just ready. Now, that's not to say that infertility isn't happening at that young age, but I don't think your fears, your thoughts, all of those things are playing as big a role in whether or not you're going to get pregnant as they are when you're 40.
I would agree. Yeah, absolutely, because probably when you're 40, you're thinking, I'm running out of time.
Well, you're panicking.
Yeah, exactly. And panic and trying to conceive is not a good scenario together.
No. Well, and actually that is one of the things that I find interesting too. You've got this biological clock that's screaming at you at that point. Mm-hmm. And some people just fall into like the expectation that they're supposed to be having a baby at that age, without really being connected any longer because they've got this biological clock screening to what they really want. And one of the things I find is that people come to me maybe on the fence, maybe thinking they really want to have a baby, but also having some reservations. And they either, disappear and go on to not have babies, or they actually leave my office really happy that they've actually got the clarity that they don't want to have children. And I've seen a couple of magazine articles recently that actually talk about the women who are actually admitting that they regret having children. And it's nice, even in the work that I do with my clients, that they can learn for themselves what they really want. Because honestly, I think you become this hormone mix of chaos that you think this biological clock is ticking and you've got to do it, and you get really, focused on that. And then afterwards, you've got a kid.
Yeah.
You want to be pretty certain, right? So,
well, that's
yeah,
true.
It's a beautiful thing.
That is true. You were talking about the women that were looking back and thinking, God, I really shouldn't have done that. And,
Right.
I think back when I was young, I got married young because that's what the thing was to do.
Sure.
And then you were expected to have children right away. And that's what I did, except I miscarried my first pregnancy.
Wow.
Almost lost my second one. He's now 36 years old. He's very healthy. Then miscarried 2 more and had my 5th one. So, I kept thinking, what am I doing? And now I think, what did I do to myself? And why did the 3 not work? Was it something that someone was trying to tell me something? Or, was I really prepared? And no, the answer was no, I was not prepared.
Interesting.
Yeah, honestly, because it was such an expectation from my parents and grandparents and, the area we lived in. It was what you did. And unbelievable, the pressures that not only we put on ourselves, but as you say, that community can put on us as well. They can help, but they can hinder at the same time.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would say we're in an interesting time where things are shifting, and yet things are shifting dramatically as far as, family structure. There are lots of same-sex couples or families like mine, single mothers by choice, all of these things. And yet I would say that that traditional family expectation is still kind of the underlying current. And so you'd still have, like my parents' age people all expecting, people to get married. I shocked my parents so much when I told them that I was pregnant all by myself. And I would say people that they just don't think outside the box, the older generations, and then it makes it tricky for the younger people who are trying to figure out what life is supposed to look for them, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, because what was, common in our grandparents' generation, our parents' generation, and then there's, my generation, the hippie generation, and, it's all, each generation is unique in their own way and in their own thoughts and in their own dynamics of how they want to live their lives, and it keeps changing, and we have to either learn to adapt and accept or ignore it, I guess. I'm not sure the right phraseology for that one, but we need to be understanding of, okay, this is your decision, it's not mine, and kind of decide whether we're going to support or not. And I know it must have been a struggle for you. Did your parents support you once you told them that you were a single mother by choice?
My dad was really adorable. He was like, because my brother's married to a man, so they didn't expect children there, though my brother and his husband thought about adopting. And my dad was like, literally, he just kept saying, we've kind of given up on being grandparents. So it just kind of blindsided him. And my mom, I'm not quite sure what she felt. She said that she was really worried that I'd lose the baby because I was 44. And so she was just so worried about that. She was pretty reserved probably until the baby came. And then, I mean, she has been such a massive participant in my daughter's life. When we lived in Ottawa, she came every week and helped me take care of my daughter. And, we've been having a wonderful time. So it's been quite marvelous. I definitely had their support once they got over the shock, I'd say.
Well, it must have been shocking. I would imagine that. But it's nice to have that support and that bonding that you had with your mom, and then to have that with your daughter as well. So,
absolutely.
So you were only given a 6 or 7% chance of conceiving. How did you react to that news? Like, was that? Did you
I didn't buy it.
Oh, okay.
No. I mean, the interesting thing, and I really try to help my clients to find their inner strength to go to the fertility clinics, because the fertility clinics are going to tell it like it is. And so they were, every single time I went, they were telling me repeatedly how old I was. And that part was really hard. The first time I went, I almost didn't go back. So this was after I'd already been working with a fertility doctor for 2 years doing artificial insemination in his office. But he's in the news right now and did some not so great stuff. So, but he was lovely. It just never took with him. So then I'm in the actual proper fertility clinic, and the blow of just hearing how old you are. For some people it's that they have a higher BMI. It could be age. It could be their low ovarian reserve. Like, it's just they really remind you of it a lot, if that makes sense. And that was hard. However, before I did, because I did 2 rounds of IVF. Before I did the first one, I was like, well, I don't care if it's a 6 or 7% chance. I'm quite certain I'm going to have a baby. Now, that said, after the first round of IVF, and there was nothing, and that was much harder because they actually put 2 embryos, so 2 mini me's went into my uterus, and then there was something that had to die. Where before, when I did artificial insemination, I don't know if egg and sperm ever actually met. Right. So this way, it was much more difficult. So after the first round of IVF, that's when I was like, uh-oh, maybe it's not going to work with my egg. And I had a brief moment of, would I consider doing donor eggs and blah, blah, blah. And then I got into the next round of IVF, and the rest is history, because I have a baby using my egg. So, but it was tough. I didn't believe it until after the first round of IVF, and then I was like, uh-oh, maybe I'm wrong.
Do you think, Cassandra, that they were trying to discourage you because of your age? Is that a fair question?
Absolutely. And well, I have to say yes. The fertility clinic that I was utilizing, they, from my understanding from other people, they no longer take people over 42. So they've actually decreased the age because there were people like me who don't ever conceive. Mm-hmm. Well, obviously a lot of people, given I had a 6 or 7% chance. I think they do discourage, which is unfortunate. Now what I think happens is that once you hit 42, 43, they're really pushing the donor eggs as opposed to using your own eggs. So because once you get over 42, over 50% of your eggs aren't viable, period.
Oh, so that makes a lot of sense, yeah. Yeah. So, but, you still have some viable eggs. It's just sort of finding one and getting it to fertilize, and it's just kind of a needle in the haystack proposition. Now, with me, I actually had quite a lot of eggs, and they put, this will just give you a, idea of how many die. They put 5 embryos in, and I got 1 baby. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, they basically called me and they said, okay, we've got 5. I think they let them grow out to day 3. We've got 5. They're going to have a better chance in your, uterus than in our whatever petri dish. And they said, come on in. I was like, okay, here we go.
Oh my goodness. Wow, when you think of it that way, that's staggering, and congratulations on the beautiful daughter you have. I've seen her and she's gorgeous. Such a beautiful smile on her. Oh my goodness. And you must just be loving the dickens out of her. I mean, that's incredible.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And she's the only grandchild. Interesting note on the grandchild though. If you ask her, particularly when she was younger, if you asked her who her parents were, like who her family was, she doesn't just say me. She says me and my parents. Like that's how connected she is with my parents as well. So she
gorgeous.
kind of has 3 parents instead of just 1.
That's a gorgeous bond to have, and that's beautiful that she recognizes that. And why not, right? I mean, the more the merrier, and she's getting multiple doses of love every day, so there's nothing wrong with that.
It sure is.
Yeah.
And she's awesome. And oh my goodness, the happiest time of my life, I would say, was just, I felt like I was Wonder Woman of being a mom when she was really little, and I could satisfy her needs, and she didn't have to cry a lot because she was just always with me, and I didn't send her to daycare. Anyway, I just loved it. There were a lot of benefits of, approaching motherhood older. I mean, there are a lot of benefits of approaching it younger. I certainly don't have the same energy, but
right.
But we have some wonderful times together being sort of an older, more patient, more financially secure mom,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So is there any kind of research that's out there now? I know you've studied a lot and you've done a lot of research.
Yeah.
So what kind of research have you found that supports your approach to overcoming infertility?
Right. Well, thank you for asking. I'm actually it's actually a recent discovery. I finally came across some research out of Harvard, which of course we think as quite reputable. And it looked at, so basically a mind-body program. So this would be like doing stress relief, doing relaxation techniques, all of which I do in my program as well. It subjected people to a 10-week program. And the people who were trying to conceive naturally, and there was a study in a control group, the people who were trying to conceive naturally, they conceived at a 3 times the rate. They achieved 3 times the rate of pregnancy over the control group.
Wow.
So that's really significant. And then they did the same research on people going through IVF. And they found in the second round of IVF, the only reason the second round was because the first round they hadn't actually gone through enough of the program. In the second round of IVF, they achieved greater than a 2.5 times increase in pregnancy rate. So it's quite significant. In fact, the researcher, Dr. Alice Domar, she said, I saw an interview of her, and she said, if this was a pill, every single person in the fertility world would take it. But it actually has to do with behavior change, slowing down, looking at your life, and making some shifts in the way you think, feel, behave, in order to achieve it. It's totally worth it, but some people don't want to make those shifts.
Yeah, you're right.
It's quite fascinating.
Yeah, that's incredible because, people do say they are ready, they will be willing, and they will, they want. But when it comes to that actual behavioral changes, they don't do it. Even though they know what the goal is and what the outcome is. It's a healthy, happy baby. That's staggering information.
I know. Isn't that crazy? And I was thrilled because, of course, it supports what I do.
Yes.
Because it's very much in line with what I do. And, in fact, I had a client early on when I was just sort of helping people, not really knowing what I was doing. I'm much clearer now. Mm-hmm. And she called me. She'd already had 3 miscarriages. And she called me, and she was really worried because she was absolutely exhausted. And she said, how am I supposed to exercise? And she exercised a lot. And I literally just said, maybe you're not supposed to exercise.
Oh.
And she could not accept that. I said, you need to do something different than what you were doing before to have a different outcome.
Right. That makes
And
total
no,
sense.
she wasn't willing to. Yeah, she had another miscarriage. That was it.
Oh my goodness! And it was such such a simple thing, but such a massive life change. That could have made the difference between the success and not success. I mean,
right?
Yeah, that's a shame, but I'm sure it does happen, and that's unfortunate. So, Cassandra, what's one piece of advice you would give to someone wanting to get knocked up? And I know that's the terminology you use, so we're going with that.
It is.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. I love it. Because, I mean, my company is called Wanna Get Knocked Up, and because people remember it. And the other reason is it's kind of more direct than a lot of the rest of the fertility world are much gentler, and they use a lot of blues and pinks, if that helps to describe sort of the way they talk about it, where I'm like, okay, we want to get the job done. So I want to be really direct and take a hard approach, because some of it is overcoming people's fears and moving into a different way of being, and that takes courage, that takes strength. I don't want it to be soft. It's like you need to tackle this head on.
Well, yeah, it's a more matter of fact than adding a lot of fluff and whatever to it.
Right.
It's the bare truth, and that's the terminology there, but it is the truth. You want to get knocked up? Yeah. Let's figure out how you can make that happen. So, what would you give? What advice would you give to someone?
What advice would I give? Interesting. I think it's really the best advice probably to your listeners is to be really living in the moment as best they can. So that means, experiencing joy when they can. That means being all in to each trial of trying to conceive. In fact, dropping that word is a good idea. Yeah, I tell people to use I'm either starting or growing my family. Nothing to do with trying.
Perfect.
But really being present and being in the moment and being all in. So, if you're trying naturally, you have sex on the best times of the month that you can actually get pregnant. I had one client that didn't even do that. And then be like, okay, be excited about the possibility. I'm pregnant. I'm going to, I just did this. There's a good chance until you're not. And I know it's a bit of an emotional roller coaster, because then you're building yourself up. And that's one of the things I find is that people kind of aren't all in because it's just too hard to accept that it might not happen, whether it be each cycle, whether it be in their life. And they really need that energy of that being all in, even though it means that they have to accept the fallout if they're not pregnant. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And
sort of babbling.
No, that's fine. There was actually a phrase that popped in my head, and now it's gone. But it was about, I guess it's be positive. Always keep that positivity in your mind that, yes, it will happen. It's just maybe not this time. It will be the next time, but it's going to happen. And we're going to have a family. And be positive about it rather than saying, oh, geez, it didn't work this time. Darn. Or get depressed. Because depression will kill everything in your body, right?
Yeah, and it's hard to avoid too. So what I did and what I recommend people do is find a way to deal with the fallout of not being pregnant, because you have to actually, respect how you're going to feel with that too. And what I did for myself was I gave myself a 1-day pity party where literally I would drink too much wine, cry, be like, why me? And all of those, let myself go down that rabbit hole. and then the next morning I would get up and I would be fully committed again because I got to do it the next cycle, and I found that really helpful to frame it so that I had a method to kind of work through that, but also find my way back up. So
that makes sense.
That's helpful to your people. Yeah,
it is, because your hormones are out of whack in the beginning. When you're
totally
trying to get knocked up, and when you find out you're not, it's a drop. But I mean, you can give yourself that time to clear it, and then jump right back up and say, you know what, next time it's going to work. So, and from what I'm understanding from you, it's a team effort. Is that right? So not just the woman. It takes a team effort to make this happen, a group of people that are totally committed to growing a family and
well, I mean, if it's a couple, then obviously both of them need to be working together. I do find that people tend to withdraw, like they become almost isolated in this experience, and that's actually part of the way that my group program works so well, because then they're around people, they find that community, even if it's with a bunch of people who start out being strangers. And then they have people to share with what they're going through, and because I do find that people tend not to want to talk to their friends about it, and other people that would normally be their support group. Sometimes it's just that they only experience pity from that person because the person doesn't necessarily understand what they're going through, or then you have other people who they've just had a baby, so they're in their joy, and then you don't want to burden that person. Like, it's a lot of isolation, to be honest, and which I think is really unfortunate, which is great to find a group. However, I will really warn people not to be just looking for a group of people going through the same thing, because there are also people who are really attached to the pain, and they just stay there, and you do not want to be around those people.
No,
when you're going through this.
Yeah, do your due diligence and choose wisely and be smart, and go with what feels right in your mind, body, and soul. You'll know when that connection is there. And if it's telling you that there's something that you're feeling kind of odd about it, turn around and run, because it's probably not the right thing to help.
Right.
And they should also connect with you, because I think what you're offering is an incredible program, and we need to have more women like you around that put this out there. That's fantastic.
Thank you. If I may share one more thing that just popped into my mind.
Yes, please do.
Thank you. One of the comparisons that I give people is, because everybody has somebody that they know who's gone through this, is that the people who, went through fertility treatments to no avail, and, have this horribly sad story of their experience where they never conceived, and so they either gave up, or they went the adoption route, or they decided to, go travel the world for a year, and that's when they got pregnant. So
you're right.
What changed there? And actually, I'd like to do research on those people at some point, because I'd love to just see what commonalities changed in their life. But my prediction is that they kind of changed their mindset. So the ones who went for adoption were like, okay, I'm going to become a parent because I'm adopting this baby, and then they get pregnant because they're becoming parents. They're actually programming their mind and their body to do something differently. Now with the travel, it's that they, stopped worrying about it, became more open to just the possibility of anything. So it's interesting.
It is. So, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because in my mind, I've been thinking about people like that, and years ago when they adopted, then all of a sudden they get pregnant. And I think it's because you took the pressure and the stress off of yourself.
Right. Yeah,
In some
in
cases
part,
it's not,
sure.
but I think, I know quite a few people that's happened to, and it's just you change, like you say, you change your mindset, you change your way of thinking about it and approaching life, and there you go. Miracles happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing what can happen when you're open to possibility, right?
Absolutely. So, Cassandra, is there a special quote that you have, one that you're inspired by that you would like to share?
There is, and it's actually Michael J. Fox, who I adore, especially as being a Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
And his quote is, "Family isn't an important thing. It is everything."
Oh, that's beautiful. That is powerful.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know the struggles he's going through. His family is by him, and that's just a beautiful gift and a beautiful saying. And I will share that on the website when we put up your episode. And how can people get in touch with you if they want to get knocked up?
Well, they can probably find me anywhere if you provide my name and whatnot. But the website is wannagetknockedup.com, and you can email me at Cassandra@wannagetknockedup.com, and I'd be happy to. That comes directly to me, and I'd be happy to address any questions or set up complimentary consultations, and it would be great fun.
Well, that's very straightforward, very simple, and yes, we will have all your links there, and anybody, and your phone number, anyone can contact you. And I really encourage everyone to get in touch with Cassandra, have that conversation, and just continue with you want to get knocked up and go for it, and have your family and just enjoy life, right?
Awesome, absolutely. And if I may share just a little teaser,
yes.
I'm in the process, and I should have it very soon. I'm figuring out a way to actually sponsor a bunch of people going through a group program. So I should be able to offer it at a much reduced rate, which would be really fun to get a bunch of people in. I'm hoping to run one that's in person and one that's online, and see how they go. I do them normally now in person, but yeah. So I'm hoping to be able to offer that really soon, and so I'm really trying to be able to get more people, be available to more people, because of course some people feel that the cost is a factor for them.
Absolutely. And I guess, that leads to, we need to have you back, because we need to find out how things are going and how many people have gone through your program, and if we can share it more, because this is incredible work that you're doing. And I'm so glad that we had this time to share together. That's fantastic.
Me too. Thank you so much, Teresa. And I would love to come back. Absolutely.
Well, we will have to make a plan for that, Cassandra. So, yeah, thanks for being a guest on Powering Through Life today. I really appreciate your input, and we'll be sharing all of Cassandra's information on the Divas That Care Network, and also on my website, teresasims.com, and on my Facebook page, Powering Through Life. So we will share the heck out of this, Cassandra, and make sure that those that want to get knocked up will have your information in front of them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Teresa. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, it's wonderful talking with you and sharing. So thanks again, Cassandra. And Divas, that brings to a close another great inspiring interview on Powering Through Life. So thank you to my incredible guest, Cassandra Bache, for sharing her thoughts and wisdom with our listeners today. And Divas, like I say, if you want to get in touch with Cassandra, when her episode is up, we will share it out, but you go to www.divasthatcare.com, click on my picture, that's Teresa Sims, and there you will find Cassandra's episode and all of her contact information. So please reach out to Cassandra if you have any questions. I know she will be thrilled to answer your questions for you. So thank you again for listening to Powering Through Life on the Divas That Care Network.